Hello everyone, my name is Jonathan Harris and I am really excited. I had a lot of fun making the last video, and I've been thinking about making the next Botball analysis video ever since. I had a lot of fun making that last one, and it's something that I've been looking forward to ever since, and I'm really excited to get this one out. I'm definitely, the first video was long. I understand, that was very long. It was like 40 minutes or something. I'm definitely not going to be doing the 40-minute video more. I'm going to just look and analyze one run, and I think we're going to look at each detail of this one specific run in as much depth as possible, and just look at this one run, and that way each video is in much more of a manageable and bite-sized chunk where you can watch the video in 10 minutes and move on, and you can go through them and select the ones that you need. You don't have to skim through a whole 40-minute video. It's just going to be just one video for each run. But today I specifically want to look at this run from Los Altos from the 2015 GCER. Los Altos is a fantastic team. They've been phenomenal for a very long time. They will stay phenomenal. They are phenomenal at the moment. They have some great coaches, so they have some great support, and they have a lot of really, really good ballballers come out of their program. In this run specifically, I think today points out and highlights some key points that I want to look at and I think are going to be useful, especially for beginner teams. Now let's take these one by one. I think, actually, let me do something real quick. And let's just go ahead and look at the first couple seconds of this run, because first we are going to be looking at this robot right here. We are going to look at the, normally, although it's not the most accurate title, we call the ones that are on the metal chassis that use motors for wheels and are run without the use of a crate, I call, personally, and my team calls Demobot. Basically, it's an easy distinction between Demobot and Create, and the robot that just uses the Create. So we'll call this the Demo, even though this is anything but a demo robot. We'll call this the Demo, and we'll call this the Create. So let's go ahead and start this run. We get something really interesting that we can look at right off the bat.
Get to the side. Thank you.
Take a look at this. So take a look at this before we start. Really, take a look at this robot. If you'll see, the wheels are. We've got some weird stuff going on. It'll make sense in a second when they separate. All right, so look at that. That's very interesting. Yes, this is totally legal. Independent structures can be used this way. I think Los Altos has done this a couple times. I know Hillsdale has done something similar. This is legal. This year, I guess, in this specific year, let's go ahead and go back a little bit and see if we can see. It does not look like. Oh, okay. So you'll see it's not over the PVC pipe. So the rules of the Starbucks is you cannot be breaking the vertical projection. So yes, that's interesting. So you can't be breaking the vertical projection, and you cannot be going past, in the Starbucks, when you start, you cannot be going past this line right here. That is the point that you cannot break. All of your robots must be in that Starbucks. But they have this little independent structure and ramp that their robot starts on. The reason that it starts on this ramp is because the only way to get to this lane right here is through entrances at the middle of the board. But that's a lot of time wasted. And so, for the sake of time management, they are going to just build an independent structure that just lets them jump this piece of PVC pipe right here, which is really ingenious. But you'll see they need to be able to bridge this little gap right here between their independent structure and the PVC pipe. So they have part of their independent structure is kind of curved up like this at the moment, but it pivots from this point. And so when they drive forward just a tad, this part flips out and goes over the PVC pipe. So that's really clever engineering there. So you'll see, and we can even go a little bit in slow motion. Let's go ahead and turn that volume down. When you go in slow motion, you can see that when we start off here, that flips down, and you can see it continues, and it flips out. All right, so let's continue. So it flips off right there, and immediately we get to see some of what this robot does. We'll look at it more in a second, but also something to note, especially when trying to precision drive and get yourself. That thing just fell off of a ledge, right? So if there's any room for variance, it's going to be here. So this robot, very smartly, is immediately going to square up into this pipe right here, right? That's its first task. And you'll see, just so we can see some of the nature of this robot, we have what is basically one of the Lego belts right here that is driving in this direction and is slowly squishing palms and is feeding them up and into this bucket back here. So all of the palms will be collected in here, like so. And you'll see right off the bat on this run, you'll see immediately, I mean, even before, right as they start dropping off, you'll see that wheel thing and this whole band begins to spin, because they know when they're driving onto this line of palms, they're immediately hitting those. So they're already raking those in. All right, now they've squared up here, and they know they're going to need to turn. This is a drastic overturn. It's very obvious. They're trying to go down this black line, but it doesn't matter if they overturn, because they know that they're immediately going to get their X-wire positions. And so they are allowed to, and know it's okay that they can overturn right there, and it's not going to be a large issue for them, because they're immediately going to back up into that wall, and it's going to correct them for the most part. But still, they don't care about being correct exactly in that position yet, because they're going to line follow, and it's going to smooth everything out. Now this is a pretty, an extremely safe run in my books, because for the rest of this run, this robot stays only on this black line, and it is just line following back and forth, and it is just, it's hard for the robot to mess up in that position when it's just line following. So you'll see, keep in mind the entire time that wheel belt is still spinning and is bringing those palms up into that hopper. So it's going to line follow and is going to go to the other side. Now, you'll see that it actually sits there and jostles these palms, settling them into the best position for it to be able to lift up those palms like this. And now, something interesting here to note. A couple things, actually. They jostle this effectively, right? It is getting them sifted into the correct spot to where they can lift them. Now, when they go for the dump, it's hard to see at the top of the video, but what happens is, yep, and you can see it there. So what happens is there is no servo that is attached, flipping that. Oh, that's fantastic. All right, so there is no motor up on top of this contraption here where this bucket is. What's happening is I'm going to do something real quick. I'm going to give myself a little bit of canvas to work with. All right, so what's happening is, let's take a side view of this bucket. Right, the bucket has a pivot point here and is not attached, is laying flat like this, and it pivots around this point, and their bucket extends up like this, and their palms are sitting nicely in here. You can see this is a cross section of the robot. You have the rest of the robot down here with your wheels and stuff, right? But what they're going to do is, this is the zone, or this is the bucket. Oops. This is the bucket they need it to be in. What they're going to do is they're just going to drive the robot until this beam hits the edge of the bucket. And they're going to continue to drive. And this is going to stay here, but the rest of the robot still keeps moving forward, causing the whole bucket to pivot from this point, sending this whole thing toppling over and dumping all of the palms into here. All right. That's really interesting and a really good design. I'm just going to go ahead and play it again so you can see exactly what I'm talking about up here. Basically, it's a very efficient way to not have to use a servo there, because, and you'll see right there, they have no servo, but you can see the little latch right there, and as it drives up to the bucket, it catches it right there and dumps the entire bucket. Now, obviously, they don't have any anything to get the bucket back over, so what they do is they actually use the edge of the bucket and some clever driving to get that thing to flip back over into the correct spot. Now, you'll see it continues down its path on that line and collects more palms. It drives into that wall and keeps collecting and collecting until what it's going to do is it's going to line follow back along this line, and is going to repeat the same step. Maybe we'll get a better angle of it. You can see it sifting the palms right here, and then it is going to push that part of the bot right up against this edge, and you're going to see it pretty clearly here. Yeah, you see it pushes into that and just flips it straight over. Really clever design to not have to use any motor or anything like that. Fascinating run. But one last thing of note on this robot that's very important, very, very important. This is probably the most important thing that you can get out of this robot, is that it splits the risk All right. With any robot, there's always a chance for failure. I don't care how good you are. There's a chance for failure, and Los Altos knows this well. So, what they're going to do is they're going to basically split up their points, and it's almost like a checkpoint, like the halfway flag in Mario. What you'll see is that they're going to collect this side of the table in palms, and they could easily continue driving that way and go to the entire other end of the table and dump all of the palms at once. They have the room there. It would not be hard for them. But they know that there's a chance for failure. The longer we drive before cashing in our points, the more chances there are for failure. So let's go ahead and put these points that we already have into the box before we try to go get the other ones. Because then we have time, we can go back and grab the other ones afterwards. So basically, even if the second half of this run was to fail, the first half and these palms still make it into the bucket. And they are still scoring a hefty amount of points, and they're going to secure themselves for pretty much any double elimination as long as the other bot does not fail. But you'll see, very important that they split up their points. If you can do something like that, if you can lock in points before you have to move on to the next step, do that. That is going to be extremely beneficial and is going to help. Because basically you're cutting the run in half. You've already gotten points, and so even if the run is to fail somewhere else, it's not going to affect you as badly or as drastically. But that is a fantastic robot. A very good use of some clever engineering up here. I really like the independent structure. You don't see that as much. Also, something to note, just interestingly, they use these tires. You don't usually see tires used in this way, but I guess they would be pretty good stoppers on the ground to prevent friction and sliding around on the table, because those plastic Legos on this plastic board glide around very easily. So if you use these rubber tires like this, it's going to prevent it from sticking. So that's very clever as well. All right, but the rest of this run and most of the other action on this board comes from this other robot. So now we don't have a great angle of it at the start, but we're going to look at this robot right here. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the Create. Now, this Create is interesting, and there were some things that it was hard to decipher from the video, but I eventually figured out after watching it a couple times. You don't see this often, but this claw is offset, and it's made very interestingly. It is a shifting parallelogram, to where basically you have a parallelogram with equal side links and keeping everything in parallel to be able to lift a claw without rotating it in a certain manner. But you'll see they drop that claw. They drop that claw and they immediately turn, and as quickly as possible before there's any room for error, they're going to turn and they're going to grab those two pink cubes. We're going to lose footage of that robot for a moment, so let's go ahead and skip ahead. So, easily enough there, they just sweep Bot Guy onto their side. That's some good points right there that they can deal with. And then also, you'll see this claw doubles as a raker. It's going to rake those palms and is going to push them into the star box. I'm assuming that they were trying to get Bot Guy in the star box, but I don't remember the scoring for this board. But you'll see that claw lift up, and there's something interesting. Good square up right there. Just always checking to know where you are. That's a good practice right there. Now, you'll see they're going to drop this claw, and they're going to rake all of that into that bucket as well. And they're going to drop those cubes. If anything, the engineering on this robot is what I want to look at, but you'll see some good use of square ups right there that can drive it back into the wall, and making sure that the robot knows where it is. Looks like they're going to... Okay, but here's where we can go ahead and take a look at a couple things. This is a large claw. That is a lot of leverage, and that is a lot of weight to be pulling around by a servo. So, unconventionally, they don't use a servo. What they're doing is this is actually a completely free pivot, and what is happening is you can't see it, but there is fishing wire wrapped around this pole, and you can actually see the pole bending right here from the fishing wire, because this motor down here has a spool on the other side that is slowly spinning fishing line around itself and is either lifting or lowering that claw. One telltale sign that you can see is when that claw lowers or raises, you can see the green light on the wombat, or on the Kipper link, this go green. You'll see as it drives, you'll see the motor light up where it is spinning in the correct orientation. Now, it is using gravity to pull this down. It's just letting out slack. But it's going to move over to the other side of the table and is going to continue to let that claw drop. And now, obviously, that spinning spool is going to give a lot of mechanical advantage and make lifting this heavy claw light work. So they're going to go drop down here. And something interesting, they know that these cubes they might not line up on these cubes every time perfectly. So what they're going to do is they're actually going to drive a little bit farther than they think they need to. And then what they're going to do is they're going to set the claw down, put this wall right here, and then just back up. Because then you're basically sweeping. It doesn't matter if these cubes are here, it doesn't matter if these cubes are here, it doesn't matter if these cubes are here. It's going to be the same outcome anyway. They're flattening them up against that wall. And so they're good to go. So you'll see them go far out, and then you'll see those cubes even get evened out because of it. And then you'll see they lift slightly using that same motor mechanism. And then something very interesting here that I think is very useful, because a problem with using motors in this way is that oftentimes it's hard to find out and know where they're at, because the servo you can just tell it to go to a specific position, but with a motor you're either telling it to drive a certain amount of ticks or a certain amount of time, and that's not beneficial. So what they're doing is, you can see they actually have a click sensor right here that is being used, so that this robot, when it's trying to lift to its utmost position, can just drive until this little standoff that they have right here can just click right into that digital sensor. So basically they just have a simple while loop that's telling this motor to spin until that digital sensor goes click. You'll see that exact thing happen as that spins back, and you'll get a click, and then it stops driving. So now they're going to do some square ups, and very efficiently they do square up. You'll see this is not it's good practice, especially if you have time. Drive into the wall as long as you want. I mean, because that means not only could you be driving from back here, you could be driving from over here, any place really. Also, something interesting to note, this is something that the Los Altos team does very well, is they have little bars back here on the back of their robot that are tapered down. What that does is those can get underneath the pipe. So if we come up to the pipe like this and we have something like that is tapered under it, it's actually going to push the robot down underneath that PVC pipe. So those two little divots can get underneath the PVC pipe, and make sure that when you hit that pipe, the robot's not lifting up, it's actually being pushed down and getting more grip on the table. Because oftentimes if you're not careful and the robot is scoring up too high on that pipe, you can pop right up over the side. So having those little things that taper down in there are really helpful for making sure you're locked in. But now they're going to turn here, and you'll see they're going to do a soft arc. They're going to back up, and they're going to sweep. They've already swept this line. They've already swept this line once, but they're going to do it again, and this is actually beneficial here because you get these 2 extra palms that they wouldn't have got otherwise. But they'll sweep that whole line again, just double checking basically, and they're going to drop those cubes in there. And this is a pretty much perfect run for Los Altos. That's really good work, really good engineering. Fantastic run by these guys. Props to them. So, a couple key takeaways from this video. Independent structures. Independent structures are really cool, really useful. I don't see a lot of teams use them. It's really cool when teams do. I've never used one this way. But that is an option. If you can ever think of a reason to use them like this, go ahead. They are a really interesting and neat way to do that. Line following. If you can have a bot that stays on one line the entire time, like the first roll we looked at it, perfect. That's great. It's going to make your run just more accurate. Also from that first robot, checkpoints. Basically, all you're doing is you are taking the points that you already have and you are putting them and you're locking them away into a safe zone where you can continue the rest of your run confidently knowing that you already have scored some points. And basically, you're just cutting your risk in half because you already know you have some points in the bag and you can go for that. Also, some very cool engineering on that robot. Good way of mechanically using the board so that you don't have to waste any more any more servos or motors trying to flip that up, because that is always an issue, trying to find how to get all the movement you need out of your robot only using 5 servos, 5 motors, 5 servos, 5 motors, and 2 micro servos. So really interesting design there. On the other robot, really good use of square ups, especially those pieces that taper down and get underneath the PVC pipe. Really interesting claw. Good use of using fishing line and the digital sensor to be able to lift that claw high to its desired location. Overall, just really good run. Los Altos is a team that I look up to a lot. They do some really great work, and they always bring something interesting to the table. Alright, well anyways, I think that's going to be it for this one. I think definitely, especially seeing how long this one went, I definitely think going for only one run per video is going to be fantastic. I don't think we're going to do anything else more than that. If you guys have any feedback or anything that you think I missed or misstated, please let me know. Either DM me on Discord through the robotics Discord, or leave a comment below.